Recording started. Happy Kwaai Day, everybody. Happy New Year. I think we did have one meeting before, but this is an exciting time. You know, I'm back from an epic family reunion in South Africa in Cape Town. Came back with a bit of a cold. We're trying to shake off, but that's not slowed me down. I went to CES, and I want to give you an update on the one high stakes meeting we had at CES, and then flew on to San Francisco and presented at Kwaai AI Digital Biology Symposium, and we had a slot there to pitch Kwaai. And so glad to see you all here. Looking forward to a productive meeting number 24. Back to you, Matt.
Well, we're rolling right into your updates, Riza. So why don't you tell us about CES?
Excellent. Okay, so this is how I roll now. When I was a junior, you know, I'd go to Vegas and have booth duty for 4 or 5 days and have lots and lots of meetings and then maybe walk the hall a bit. This time I flew in for one high stakes meeting with NVIDIA. Our champion on the inside of NVIDIA is a guy called Neil Trevitt. Neil, I've known for 40 years. We're good friends. I pinged him, said, hey, I'm going to be in Vegas for one night only. And he said, that's great. That's the night that I've got an empty slot on my calendar. So he booked a lovely restaurant, the STK restaurant at the Cosmopolitan, and over a lovely steak dinner and a bottle of wine, we had a 2-hour conversation where I described to him the mission of Kwaai, and he said, "I'm getting goosebumps." That every so often, and he repeated this a few times. So I said, "Of course, I'm talking to you about this because I'm looking for funding." And so he described the different paths to funding and how NVIDIA could help. But he's an executive at NVIDIA, but he also runs Kronos.org. Kronos.org is the standards body that manages OpenGL, OpenCL, a whole bunch of other APIs and standards, and a lot of the standards for NVIDIA. In fact, Kronos is an organization he formed years ago, and he brought that along with him to all of his different jobs. He's been with NVIDIA maybe 15 years or so. I think prior to that was Creative Labs. Prior to that was a company called Benchmark, which became renamed Pixel. And so this guy is deeply steeped in computer graphics and 3D video, but yeah, he's got tremendous domain expertise. The conversation was very productive, and we've got pathways to getting funding for Kwaai. So I'm feeling very excited about that. I don't want to go into too much detail. It's still a bit early. We'll follow up with him next week, but I think that's okay. One meeting, check, done. Okay. After that, I flew to San Francisco. I actually stayed with Mike Rubin in Vegas. So Mike, thanks so much. If you're on the call, thanks so much for hosting me. I had an opportunity to have lengthy conversations with Mike. The conversations were around the bifurcation of Kwaai. Kwaai has is zealously a non-profit. We've got a mission. We style ourselves as the Linux of AI, but Mike is already eyeing, well, what is the Red Hat? What is the Ubuntu? What are the for-profit components or businesses that get built on top of the non-profit? So he wanted to pursue that. So I said, well, Mike, come up with a proposal of what that could look like. And so ball's in Mike's court. I don't think he's on the call. and let's see what happens. Typically, you know, if we're using Linux as our model, Linux doesn't have a stake in Red Hat, and in the OpenAI case, OpenAI owns the for-profit components of its business. So, you know, we can debate separately on what path we want to take. I'm not going to be religious about this, but we've got two examples in the world there of the two extreme approaches, and maybe we adopt something, some other approach. But we're not going into this uninformed. We know how these things can turn out. Okay, so that after Vegas, the following morning I hopped on a plane to San Francisco and attended the AI Digital Biology Symposium that Kwaai had put on. It was hosted by PwC. We've got some good friends at PwC, some good contacts. They're not fond of the open source space, but hey, maybe we can persuade them. And got a chance to pitch Kwaai to a whole new community, and got some good feedback at the end of it. So the video of that meeting we posted at some time. So those are the two updates. This morning I had a couple of calls about our scale demo. What are we going to present at scale? We can cover more of that later on. But back to you, Matt.
Sure. And Mike, I do see that you're on. I don't know if you've got a chance to talk, but anything to
add? Thank you. Yes, I am on. Yeah, other than what Riza had mentioned, on top of the fact that he did a little bit of handiwork around my house, which I appreciated. It was like Murphy's Law, like the one night, because I don't really have a lot of guests in my guest room, but the one night I did, the smoke alarm battery went out and woke him up in the middle of the night, so I apologize about that. But anyways, we did have a good time. We did have some good discussions, and I have dove in a little bit into some of those two examples of research of how things have been structured in the past with nonprofits that ultimately have some commercialization around them. But more to come on that. I see I'm on here for a little bit of CES updates. Because it was in my hometown, I was able to make it for almost every day of CES. Had a lot of private meetings there for different purposes than Kwaai. However, as I mentioned to Riza, what I've been doing is planting very small seedlings with some very important companies to pique some interest to dive in a little bit deeper as we have a more formalized pitch that we want to talk to them about. I think I've said in the past on here, but certainly to Riza and others, I have access to, just like Riza does, to some very, very high level folks, certainly at the CEO or reporting to the CEO level of some of the really important infrastructure companies in AI that have a vested interest in where personal AI might go, independent of any particular device or any particular operating system. So I'm pretty confident that when the time's right, we can take that message and hopefully find some really good support monetarily in other ways. There were a lot of public announcements at CES that you guys may want to tune into if you haven't already. I'd recommend that you, a good place to start, Intel held a panel discussion on personal AI, which really is, in their view, AI PCs. And it had, in addition to Intel, it had the industry analyst group that I've been helping out with More Insights, moderated it. And it had every head of, I think, the top 3 or 4 PC manufacturers discussing the role of AI at the personal level. So I think that's really good. Our philosophy and message is getting out in a slightly different way, but at least it's starting to be discussed and talked about, the importance of privacy, less so self-sovereignty, but privacy around your data, and why AI at the edge is so important. So I think those are good discussion points for us. It makes the case for us easier, and it allows us to show the differentiation of being independent and open source and not tied to any one particular platform out at the edge, something that is a greater good for society and the ecosystem in general. So those are my basic updates.
Thanks, Mike.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. Cool. Riza, actually, back to you here. Quick update on all the work that you did in addition to your Vegas trip with the filings. Any quick updates on just the organization and the nonprofit status?
Yeah, so 1023 has been filed, and got a receipt notice that it's been filed. We paid the fees for it. So we've got well, we already had an EIN, but we'd not, and we'd already got an EIN and a Articles of Incorporation certificate from Virginia. This third step, 1023, was filing it with the IRS to claim a nonprofit status. The mere act of filing it gives us that status retrospectively all the way to the point of incorporation. So that was back to December 11. This is a big benefit for all of those companies that want to donate to us, but not donate monetarily. They want to donate in kind. They can do that now because we can give them a receipt and they can claim on their taxes and get a tax credit on that. That might be a significant avenue of funding. In order to file 1023, I had to build out a financial model for 3 years in advance for what Kwaai could look like. Actually, the exercise of doing that is quite enlightening to see how things scale and so on. I haven't shared that with everybody. I haven't even shared it with Matt and with the officers, but I will do that separately, and I think it's going to be the subject of a lot more work. But we are well underway now. We're a non-profit. It's official, and we can quote our EIN number. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Riza. And Serge is actually going to be working on the Kwaai.org website, which will, again, be the consumer-focused kind of version. We're going to keep Kwaai.ai. That's going to be focused on, our recruitment for volunteers, get people involved in the mission. We'll have Kwaai.org, which is really going to be tuned and focused on the front end and the consumer product experience and the messaging, why you need to own your own AI, why that's superior to the centralized services, et cetera. So I appreciate the work that Serge is doing on that, and then certainly converging on everything that we're working on for scale. Quick update just on the ops side. I'll be sending out a survey. I've gotten a lot of feedback, really appreciated. I've gotten some feedback that a lot of the calendar invitations can be challenging, certainly challenging times. Thank you again, Marcus. Challenging, just management of all of the calendar invites. And the feedback that I'm generally getting is, I'd love to stay in the loop and stay involved, but, I need to manage this a little bit better. So I'm going to be sending a survey around, and the survey is going to ask on a few topics that, we really need the membership's feedback on. Some really key decisions for Kwaai itself. We still do not have a decision on personal AI's open source licensing. And I was actually hoping to put Karsten on the spot here today, but I don't see him on. I may put him or somebody similar in the hot seat next week. We'd love if anyone has some experience with open source licensing, can give us a good summary in a 5-7. Oh, there's Karsten waving at me. Karsten, now I will put you on the spot.
Yeah, for sure. But next week sounds like a good opportunity for me to do that because yeah. So go ahead and finish up what it is you were looking for.
No, that's perfect. We'd love just a lightning talk on this topic. You know, what we realize is maybe folks just don't really have the context to have a good opinion on this. So let's take a Friday. Let's revive the Kwaai lightning talks. Let's have you give one if that's a good day for you. Just on what are the considerations for making this choice for Kwaai and for Pi. At that point, yeah, awesome. And at that point too, what we'll then try to do is just put an actual pin and an actual calendar date here to make this decision. Riza and I discussed we'll make this targeted to the end of the month. So we give folks just the time to process what Karsten shares. We give Brittany some time to revive that poll in there. Please, if you do have opinions on this already, there is a poll in the Slack, and we'll also include that as a question on the survey. Lynn, I see you're here as well, and you know, Lynn, awesome this week, leadership on the Pi front end call, and you know, was thinking a lot about Pi use cases and user stories. Would love to include some of these, just some general survey questions here to get your ideas on what these are. Lynn, can I put you on the spot now? Do you have a few words to share just about your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I do have some thoughts about it. So I believe that the beginning of every new software development effort or systems development effort starts with a user story, because we need to understand what problem we're trying to solve, for who and why, and that helps to guide your functionality, and we can align that with the roadmap for this product. We identified it's more of a product and less of a service. So I started to put together some user stories. I know Cyan also has some user stories. I'm more accustomed with like the more traditional, as a so-and-so, I need to such and such so I can do a thing. So just really identifying who are our user types. We have a lot of different user types, I believe. What do they want to get out of this? And then how can we compartmentalize that into phases within the roadmap? I really think that that's a great way to organize, because it can help set expectations around what to expect and when, and also help guide our conversations. So I did share a Google Sheet in Slack. I know that Cyan also has some documentation. So I think that if we can surface those documents, so we're not using bullet points in Slack, it makes it a little bit easier to track. And I do notice that they change frequently, which is part of this agile process. It makes a lot of sense that it changes frequently. If we just have like a centralized document, like a central lucid chart for the roadmap and a central document for the user stories that we can all have access to and all contribute to. I think that is the ideal way to go.
Awesome. Thank you, Lynn.
Okay. I'm hearing you loud and clear. I think what we're missing is we don't have a centralized Google Drive that everyone can go to where all these documents live. They're in personal Google Docs. The links get posted on Slack and then scroll away, and we've lost it. So it'd be great. I could set that up, or Matt, you can set it up, a folder where all these documents go, and that would be the one shortcut that you need to have, you know, on your browser, where you can go to and find all the stuff. So I will.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that we've got the 1023 filed, hopeful that means we can get a few more Google Workspace accounts, and that means we can give, you know, some folks in the engineering leadership and the advisory committee actual emails. It'll make some of this sharing and coordination a bit easier.
Right. Okay.
And yes, a central folder repository. I'll definitely help get that set up. And Lynn, thank you for highlighting that. I'm going to share that link in the chat here in just a minute. The other thing for the survey here, we do have our summit coming up, the second Kwaai Summit. Updated the webpage here just with a quick teaser page. Coming up March 14th, that's the first day of the SCALE conference in Pasadena. It will be co-located with the SCALE conference. SCALE is sponsoring the space. Thank you, SCALE. Really appreciate that. And we're also looking, as Riza had mentioned, at coordinating with some other AI groups and initiatives that may be there as well. But we'll be doing our Kwaai Summit. And just like the first Kwaai Summit, this is really an opportunity for all of you to come down and share. We'll need to put together an agenda. I'll be issuing a bit of our own call for papers, just about some topics across the different tracks that we can folks can speak about. We don't have to stick to the agenda that we stuck with last time. This is certainly fluid, and would love some ideas and feedback, which I'll include in that survey as well.
I'd be looking for some big names to keynote it. So if we can come up with some recommendations. I've got 1 or 2 recommendations, but inviting some big names to speak at the summit would be great.
Awesome. And then speaking of speakers, Kai Pham is speaking at SCALE as well that week, and so he'll be representing Kwaai as well in his presentation. Cool. And if you haven't seen them, check out the previous summit. The stuff is still down there. I didn't delete it. The playlist, some of the speakers and content. Take a look at that for some inspiration. Let's switch over to work group updates. Ruth, are you? I don't see anymore.
Yes, I'm here.
You still on?
Yeah.
Excellent. If you would help kick us off on the policy side.
Sure. So maybe a little bit of background for those who don't know, that the work groups fall into 3 categories: fundamentals, tools, and policy. And then we move that forward a little bit by having a board liaison for each of those work groups. And I found myself with my hand up saying, yes, I'll do the policy one, because my interest is mainly in policy for education. And if we go to, I don't need to share, but if we look at the mission statement for the policy group, I think it needs a little bit of reworking. There's an Oxford comma missing there, but it says we advocate for human rights, self-sovereign identity and data, and the ethical governance of, for, and with artificial intelligence. I've kind of let this work group do its own thing. And I've been in contact with Sushil. I know he's had some meetings with Kwanzaa Hall, and he did send on some stuff that they had worked out, which I'm taking a look at. I'll go back to what we've been saying about central Google Drive and just finding the information. I struggle with that. Father Christmas did not send me a new laptop, and so I can't get Slack on my laptop. So I'm, looking at my phone, trying to go through documents and stuff, and that's not really working for me. So personally and for the work group, I want to kind of give it a relaunch next week. I'm going to meet with Sushil, possibly today, later. The other problem that Marcus could probably echo is timing. Even though Sushil and I are in the same city, let alone the same time zone, we find it difficult to meet. So once I've had that meeting, I'll be able to report somewhere in Slack somewhere. And I would encourage other people. I'm going through the sign-up sheet to see who else is interested in policy, not just for education, but for that mission that I just quoted. And maybe come up with a time that's more mutually acceptable. for people, because I think the more input we get, perhaps we can get something completed in time for the second summit in Pasadena in March. I think there's a paper just hatching there that we could maybe get together. So I'm looking for people to join in with that and bring their expertise on policy. I'm looking at you, Mike Rubin.
He's just put his hand up.
Yeah.
I put my hand up.
Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
I put my hand up because I thought maybe we were transitioning to tools. So what I wanted to say on the tools track, like Ruth on
hold on, let's
stay on policy. I've got a comment on policy. I recall in the original Kwaai white paper that we broke up our policy objectives into three streams. One was terms or language that will go into employment contracts that anticipate AI. I think that's one concrete output we can deliver. The other concrete output is a proposal for nutrition facts for models. That seemed to resonate with a lot of people, especially in this healthcare conference, the digital biology conference I was at yesterday. And then third is a GPL-like license for training data. And I know guys like Ian on the call last year, that resonated with him. Lots of people realize that training data itself, you need to provide a license that describes what you are granting rights to and what is being retained. Those are the three practical outputs. The language about what we were going to pursue in the mission statement weren't, you know, these are not smart deliverables. So we need to think. Ruth, you're absolutely right. We need to think about what is a deliverable in time for the Scale conference. Okay, back to you.
Could I just say something, Matt?
Okay.
Before you move off this?
Yeah,
please.
Also to you, Ruth, my interest is actually in using the assistant that you're going to develop as an adjunct to structured democratic dialogue. Because one of our problems when we're doing dialogues is that people are asked to build up their ideas and to consider them in some kind of detail. And a personal assistant would be absolutely perfect for doing that. The problem is we have to be very careful that the data it's been trained in is not something which is actually going to go against us or influence them in some way. And the area we're looking at the moment is citizens' assemblies in the UK, in the EU, which has become very hot. And having a personal assistant to be used by the people who are in an assembly, who are trying to understand what the information they're being given, whether it's the right information, what do they think about it, this would be ideal. So I really would like to make sure that in the policy that we cover this whole issue of the training, the data used for training.
Yep.
Fantastic. Yeah, Gus, go ahead.
Is that a case? Yeah, like with policy, this is a case of like Asimov's 3 laws of robotics. Has anyone started to, you know, give AI laws of AI? Is that even considered right now? Because that's on the top of my mind about policy. We should.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, I love the breaking things up into 3. That's always been very powerful. Sort of almost rhetorical tool that makes things digestible. The 3 for policy are employment contract language, nutrition facts, and data licensing. The data licensing one, which I think you were excited about, and Ian's excited about it as well, is to do with the use case where, let's say I have custodial rights over a body of data, like I'm a healthcare provider, and I've got a duty of trust to keep that data private. But it's extremely valuable data, and I'm itching to do AI on it. I want to refine it against a large language model, but I don't want to just make blind OpenAI queries with it, because that'll be divulging the privacy, divulging what should be retained private. So is there a mechanism, and I think there are technical mechanisms by which you can extract semantic metadata, semantic meaning, semantic representation of the data, which is sufficiently anonymized and doesn't divulge the raw data, so that you can then do that refining or retuning against a large language model. And what's missing is actually the license terms, the license agreement by which you express what you're going to keep private and what you are allowed to divulge. We've just not had language, and so as a blanket, no, you can't share anything. And so a lot of the valuable a lot of the data that's got valuable information in it, valuable learning in it, remains you know, in private silos.
I think you know more of what Gus. Yeah, sorry, Afshin, go ahead. Afshin?
I'm on mute. I was talking to myself. Yeah, there you go. I lowered my hand, but I didn't unmute myself. But yeah, I think one thing for policy we should also cover, I'd be happy to help out there, and I think Riza's going to talk to the NASP folks in a couple of weeks, is the governmental policy, right? Because AI government policies are completely different than the rest of us know about. And that's a topic I think we should make sure, if we cover that aspect, it'll be easy for us to slip in this pie into the whole government, you know, around the world, not just US, but every government has a different policy. Back up.
Yeah, I think Gus brought up a broader philosophical point, that, you know, OpenAI has gotten slower. ChatGPT has gotten slower because of all the guardrails that they've been putting on, trying to externally control the AI system to let it not do this or not do that, you know, versus any type of internal alignment. Well, I'm sure they do have some type of internal alignment, but, you know, what are the 3 laws of robotics that are the actual system instructions for that personal AI? So I do think that Gus is bringing up some incredibly, you know, deep and important points here that we're going to need to, you know, talk about with regards to, yeah, we're releasing this. What's Pi's motivation, for lack of a better term? Much long discussion, Gus. I would love to grab a beer with you about that one. That's for sure. Tools engineering update. Yeah, Mike, go ahead. Why don't you kick us off?
Okay. Last though on policy. I mean, I think like the macro buckets, and maybe I'm missing one, but the 2 macro buckets that I think about in policy that are important for us, that we're talking about subcomponents of them. One is ethics and the other is safety. You know, kind of as the bigger buckets that fit within it. I think licensing might be outside of both of those, might be part of ethics. But let's transition into the tools update. One thing I wanted to mention, you know, that's similar to Ruth, on the tool side. I'm sort of the board champion for this this component, and unfortunately, I've been out of pocket most Mondays over the holidays, and so I've missed it for quite a few weeks, and you know, I've been trying to catch up here and there. One thing I wanted to just float out there, Matt, because you're sort of the keeper of the calendars. Mondays may be problematic because a lot of holidays and stuff fall on Mondays. And as a volunteer organization, we don't really have a catch-up mechanism that you might in a day-in, day-out organization. I'd like to propose moving that to Tuesday. I know it's always disruptive when you move it, but I think not just for selfish reasons, I think for broader attendance, we might find that we get more consistency, especially because people start their weeks on Mondays and just stuff comes up. So I just throw that kind of as an aside before you guys give your updates for us.
Mike, could I suggest a Thursday? Because Thursdays seem to be good for a lot of people whenever I have meetings. So I don't know if that's a good idea, I think, what you said. So
yeah, I'm good with any. I think just moving it outside of Monday is really a good thing. So Thursday, Tuesday, whenever is the good day. I think that's going to be better for the group.
Awesome. In addition to the survey, I'll circulate in the Slack channel, which is especially the core group. We'll nail down a revised time for that. That's not Monday. And then, also looking to just make sure everybody knows when this thing is so that they can pop in and join and listen in when they're able. Excellent. Anything else, Mike, or?
No, not specifically. I like I said, I've been in and out and not on the call, so I'm not the best to give any updates at this point.
No problem. We do have a few updates from myself and Sayande. Oops. Oh, by the way, who's actually coming to Pasadena? Let's get some names on the list. Who's going to be there? Come on, let's go. I'll see you there. So let's go over to tools. Tools, what we're really struggling with, and Lynn brought this up as well, just we didn't really have the user stories to rally around. We don't have a true product roadmap defined as of yet, and it's been challenging for us to nail down the scope of what we are looking to demonstrate at scale. We do think that we've been able to nail that down this week, between this and last week, between the various meetings. So the proof of concept that we are going to be demonstrating for personal AI will be that AI can remain deployed in a private location and can be fine-tuned to assist a user. And the initial use case that we are going to use for that user assistance is going to be to assist them in their inbox management. The functionality we've scoped to being deployed via a Docker container. We understand and completely acknowledge that this is not a consumer-friendly deployment strategy for a Pi. We don't want them to have to run their own Docker hosts in order to run Pi. So that is a longer-term goal for the roadmap. What does the installation process look like for the consumers? Lynn is really doing a lot of thinking on that as well. But for the demo, what we decided, great, let's get this Dockerized. That means we can run it in the cloud on an instance that's large enough to manage this. And what we're going to do is take an IMAP email export. So you can export your Gmail history, for example, into an IMAP export. That IMAP export can be used to fine-tune a Llama 2 model that will be deployed in that Docker container. There'll be a trigger to detect new email coming from Gmail via the Gmail API. And when a new email is received, that local model would be initially prompted, hey, is this somebody that you would usually respond to? So it's got to really classify whether or not a response is necessary. And then if you would typically reply, how would you typically reply to an email like this? And so it's going to generate a response using that local model and have that response as a draft in the Gmail inbox. So this really allows us to hopefully just detect any new emails, determine whether or not a user would typically reply, and it would draft an email in their tone. We've talked a lot about, hey, is it a professional tone? Is it a business tone? Is it a personal tone, a snarky tone? It's the user's tone based on how they would have replied to those emails in the past. So it's not going to know, for example, that this is your mom asking you to go to a movie on Friday, versus this is Mike Rubin reaching out to invite you to go to the movie. And you might respond differently to your mom or to Mike Rubin, but it would draft an email based on how you would typically respond to an invitation to go see a movie. So what we intend to show is really encapsulating the idea that this personal AI assistant can be run locally. It's largely based on the Zapier plus ChatGPT demo that was posted in the Pi architecture channel. And that's using an external centralized AI system where that system owns the data. What we're showing is that this can be deployed for somebody to own it. I'll pause there. Quick question to the Arcus team, Cyan, Jesus, Alonso. Did I capture that correctly? Anything to add there? And then I'll ask Mike.
No, this is good. This is actually what we're aiming for.
Excellent. Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the chat. Ian brought up a point too. I think it's really important that we do two things with this. One, you know, we're tactically trying to get a proof of concept out. A proof of concept does not represent the minimum set of features. It's not an MVP. It's a step before that. So yes, something like IMAP is probably an MVP requirement, not necessarily proof of concept. But in concert with this proof of concept, we need to have a fairly fleshed out roadmap that shows where the proof of concept is and where it's going, so that we don't get all these objections about the limitations, or are you just an arm of Google? Like, you know, we need to show where we're going more universally with this. Things like tone and personality, all those things that we talked about, we will have in a roadmap, but it's important to have both of those for scale.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sorry, was there another comment?
And I like Ian's comment, sorry to jump butt in there, that the proof of concept is tactical. It might have some compromises in it, but it gets us to a demo. And this morning I committed to storyboarding out what I think that demo should be. And we're going to have someone on stage actually give that demo, and that might be Matt, that might be me, I don't know. Somebody that's a good showman would be giving that demo. We need to storyboard that out and code towards that demo. It's very tactical. Yeah.
And yeah, Ian, you have a couple questions in there. IMAP is being used for the export. So basically you could load any IMAP data to fine tune the Llama 2 model and make it learn how you respond to emails. We are using Gmail to integrate for the draft response. We're not going to build a new email UI. We're not going to build a UI that you now have to look at for Pi in order to read your email. Users get email done in their email client. We're picking Gmail because of its ubiquity. And this will allow us just to stage that draft for them and help them where they get their work done. I'm not entirely sure what you mean by IMAP can do all of that, but.
So why wouldn't we just use IMAP to push a draft to your Gmail or any other inbox, or to your other draft queue? Right? Like, I
think that's what we're proposing here for the proof of concept.
But you're specifically talking about Gmail, and there's really no reason that Gmail needs to be in it. They do not use their APIs. Use IMAP, which is a you know.
To create a draft in the Gmail folder,
yeah,
you would need
use
to
IMAP.
Use oh, okay, cool.
No, I know that.
SMTP. It's not IMAP. It's SMTP.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Anna. Go on, Jesus. Anna, why don't you go first?
Okay. Yeah, I think that IMAP is used to retrieve emails, but SMTP is a protocol to create or send a draft.
To send a draft, yes, but to create an entity in an IMAP folder, you can use IMAP to create an object.
Okay, Ian, you're going to have to probably work closely with Anna to show her how that's done. If that's your opinion.
This sounds like hackathon fodder in the next.
Yeah, totally. We can talk about it more in 15 minutes.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and pass it to. We're running a bit long here. I'm going to pass it to Cyan here to cover some of the rest of the weekly goals.
For sure. Thank you, Matt. So regarding the process that we are following, we divided into two, which is the setup process. Basically, everything from extracting data from the user's inbox to send it to the model and do the fine tuning. That's the first phase. or the first process. And then we have Pi actions, which is basically detecting whenever a new email arrives, doing the classification to see if there's like any response that we need to do, or if it is a spam or a no reply email. And from there, create the actual draft response and asking the LLM how we could answer to that. So the first 2 milestones that we have are already done, which is connecting to connecting a Gmail account or any email account to Pi and extract the actual inbox from the user's sandbox. Yeah, sorry, sandbox. So that's basically done. Currently, we're in progress of finishing up triggering an API that is going to fine-tune the LLM model whenever all these data is gathered, and we're converting that into JSON to the fine-tuning. So those 2 steps to finish the fine-tuning process are being in development. And we talked yesterday that we might be able to have everything for next Friday and start working on integrating it. For the Pi actions, which is drafting a response, we already have the detection of a new email arrival, and currently we're working on categorizing the email. This is something that is in progress. Anna is working on it, and also we're checking how we are going to be working on creating the draft response. So those 2 steps are already in progress. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, sorry, maybe this was discussed and I missed it, but when we're using the API to trigger the tuning of the model, is the model hosted locally? Is the model local?
Yes.
It is, okay. That's good.
Okay. So for next week, we are aiming to start integrating everything together and start working on the first demo of the functionality of the core of Pi. And maybe for next Monday, we'll have it because we're going to be integrating everything next Friday. So for next Monday, we'll have like a POC of the POC and start refining it.
That's so exciting. That is so exciting.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Awesome update, Cyan. That's great. Sorry, had this on you as well.
Yes. So we defined like a high-level roadmap on how we're going to be interacting during these 3 months. Well, 2 months and 10 days of March. For January, we're trying to finish everything, the core functionality, which is basically a diagram that I show you with the milestones. For February, we're going to be integrating the UI, only the necessary pages that we need, which is basically 1 page maybe for adding like user credentials and connecting to IMAP, to the email via IMAP. We are thinking that we might be able to add RAG on February, depending on how the answers are being created. And this is something that we are discussing because we don't know if we are going to be able to complete the RAG or if there's like any other option or layer that we can add to enhance the responses. But it's something that we will be looking in February, which is enhancing everything and basically just testing and enhancing. And for the first week and second week of March, we're going to be doing some bug fixings, if there's any, or UI enhancements, etc.
Right.
Fantastic, fantastic. I love the thinking, and thank you for the organization, Cyan. We're a little bit short on time for some member voices today, but I do see some new folks here that have joined. The tradition here is use a little virtual hand raise and speak up and introduce yourself. If you hold off too long, I might call you out if I see your name here. So would love for you to just introduce yourself. If you have spoken before, and we've heard from some great folks today so far, if you haven't had a chance to share what you're working on or any updates or anything like that, this is a great time to do it. I see one new name on there. All right, and there it is. Hey, Austin, welcome. Go ahead.
There we go. Hi, my name is Austin. I am doing some business consulting for some new ventures and startups, but I came here today just to kind of find out more about what Kwaai was all about and what you guys are working on. So it's very interesting. It was a lot to also take in.
Awesome. I'm curious, what was your takeaway as you were taking it in?
I thought it was very interesting that you guys are actually having completed products, or maybe not products, but like things you can use going along in the future, rather than this just being a group to discuss more of the policy and things like that. But it's a group to discuss that and then actually see that personal AI come to fruition.
Toby, can you mute? We're getting noise coming in through your mic. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Austin. That's great. And thank you for that summary. I appreciate that. Would anybody else like to share today? Looks like we've got a good crew here. Balaji, Diego, Christian.
Maybe Diego wants to say a few things about the life sciences progress.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from Diego.
Hey everyone. So we had some discussion this week about how to move forward with our experiments. So we were trying to assess basically large language models with respect to healthcare related data. We say we will start with drug side effect information, in which I had a lot of experience. So I work a lot in machine learning application before for drug discovery. And I know the data set that we could use are of good quality for basically assessing how good, let's say, ChatGPT can actually give us back that information, how accurate it is. And some of the things I've been exploring, or we've been exploring, also discussing, is that this model has some parameters that we need to be careful, especially for healthcare applications, like the temperature. And I've been doing already some preliminary results that I would like to share on Monday, that I see that this is a parameter that definitely will affect our applications that we are thinking in the realm of healthcare. It can basically, the model sometimes can tell you this is a side effect caused by the drug. It can tell you yes, and then the next time it changes the answer to no, right? And this can be very sensitive for the application that we are thinking. You cannot have that amount of false positive rate, let's say, and we need to measure that. So that's what we are after now. We want to understand how well it works, these off-the-shelf models for healthcare application, and we are already also discussing how to possibly improve this by providing contextual information, like adding information about the drugs, adding information about the side effects, and see how this might improve the response of the LLM. The other thing is, we were thinking, how can we use personal information that can be combined with the, let's say, information that is already there and that was learned by the model. And this is still unexplored by us, but this is something we want to explore in the future. I don't know if there's something else, Afshin, that you would like to add.
No, you covered it. I mean, right now, I guess we need people joining to help out with that cause, because I know Diego's coding and running these experiments by himself. So if there's actually help, and ideas to run different models. I know Pinar's been, she's our MD, she's been giving nice suggestions and databases to access. But basically, I think what Diego is finding, ChatGPT is not going to cut it. We need our Pi model is going to be the one that's going to really change the system, But he's running these to show that this is deficient. So, right, Diego? I mean, that's basically
definitely. Yeah. And we need hands in the group. So basically, you want to know and you want to learn about ChatGPT, about this large language model, how to query in there through API to Python. I mean, you're going to learn a lot about this, and also about the application that we work on. And I think also the idea is to do some research and to produce some meaningful publications out of this. And I think that's exciting, right? Especially for me, because I work on research. And we are getting, I think, interesting results so far. So yeah.
And this is something, good point too, for people, like getting a publication with Kwaai on there. I think it will go a long ways, because I'll get some publicity, being like, oh wow, Kwaai actually is thinking about how deficient ChatGPT is and how we're gonna actually change that and openly do it. Publications are open, right? And anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, I can help with that, Diego. I'll try and make the next meeting's Tuesday, 8 a.m. Pacific time.
Well, it's Monday, but I guess, Diego, we're talking because Kai Pham is interested in joining. He said he can't make those Mondays, so we have to potentially change the date. Right now, what time is it Monday, Diego?
Yeah, now it's Monday. I don't know what time is in Pacific time.
8 a.m. Pacific.
8 a.m.
8 a.m.
Yeah, because we could figure out, maybe people on the Slack channel can maybe tell us when they're available, or we could send out another meeting poll, Diego, and see. Josh, like you said, you're interested. Yes, and other people who are interested in the Slack could go to the poll, and we could try to figure out another time. So I know Kai Pham wants to make it, and Govindraj said he wants to try to make these ones.
Yeah. I think people are missing our Slack poll on that. That's a problem, because I sent it already 3 times and we are not getting.
Maybe put it on the general channel or something. I don't know if you can see it. Anyway.
So for the people who want to join like Josh, please join the Slack channel, AI for Life Sciences. I don't know, Matt, you have the link to the. Matt will send the link in the chat.
And Balaji has good things saying. He has a nice paper he'll share with us too.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
So please join this group, and I will post there the when to meet link, so we can organize or find the best time for everyone.
Yeah. Thanks.
Awesome. And Chris, to add there, just as we're wrapping up.
To be honest, today as I'm totally destroyed. I am just here for her. Maybe next week it will be much more in energy. Taking account that now in Italy is 8 p.m. So my days were very, very long. I'm sorry for that.
Thank you for staying up late for Kwaai.
No, Christian needs to have a nice bottle of wine now and enjoy himself.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Christian.
You're welcome.
Riza, take us out.
Okay. Look, meeting number 24. Thanks so much for participating. Look, we're giving up our free time. We're giving up time from our day jobs because we're committed to this mission, to this movement of democratizing AI. And we're not just grumbling about it. We're not just going to write blog posts. We're doing something practical in the area of tools, fundamentals, and policy. And I'm so inspired by the contributions of everyone. Look, we started the year, I returned from Cape Town, energized by our mission, but then I think we've got line of sight to funding, which is also extremely exciting. And it was great that we got the approval that Scale is going to host our summit. So look, Q1 is going to be so busy. I'm building out what the plan is for, well, I've been building out the plan for the next 3 years, but we'll start surfacing it up in roadmaps in forms that are digestible. I want to thank you all for giving up your precious time and for contributing to this worthy cause. Hopefully see you on the follow-up on the hackathon session straight after this.